Hello, everyone. We were having a little bit of technical issues here, so please, in the chat room, just let Ken know if you can hear and see me okay by a little thumbs up or a yes, I can see you. It's all good. We just need a little feedback there to know if you can hear us. Yeah. Are they saying anything?
They're not saying, well, I'm just looking at how many viewers we have. We don't have any viewers yet, but that might take a while to update. Oh, yes, I can see you. Okay, yeah, they can see us. Cool.
They can? Okay,
Sweet.
Cool.
Lots of yes,
okay, I'm gonna
yes.
Sip of my tea.
Sweet.
Okay, well, welcome then. Thank you all for joining us today. This is our Year of Forgiveness live streaming events. As you all know, some of you will be new though, because we get regular new people signing up. So we're going to start our usual way with Ken reading one of the lessons from A Course in Miracles, and then I will channel Jesus, his response to that lesson.
Yeah, so this is the last lesson, lesson 365. This holy instant would I give to you, be you in charge, for I would follow you, certain that your direction gives me peace. And if I need a word to help me, he will give it to me. If I need a thought, that will also he give. And if I need but stillness and a tranquil open mind, these are the gifts I will receive of him. He is in charge by my request, and he will hear and answer me, because he speaks for God my Father and his Holy Son.
So nice. Okay, I'm just going to take a couple of breaths and bring Jesus through. You are all here on purpose, and we are very, very pleased to have this opportunity to speak to you directly through the magic of your technology. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and we as a collective here are working with all of you on earth intensively at this time. We want you to understand this. Your frequencies are shifting rapidly, and many of you are feeling edgy or confused or different somehow, perhaps feeling unmotivated where normally you'd feel motivated, or agitated where normally you'd feel relaxed. These are the shifts and changes of energy within your system adjusting to your Earth's frequency shifts and changes. I start with this statement because it is very important for all of you to understand that when you feel intense worries or fears now, they are being brought to the surface of your consciousness through this frequency shift. Anything in your mind that is of low frequency must be ejected now. Your entire system is trying to keep up with the agitation of your planet. Now, we use the word agitation not in the negative sense that you would normally expect to hear it, but in the sense that it is vibrating more quickly. It is getting warmer, it is getting more active, and you are having to join it in its journey. That is the journey that we have referenced many times through these meetings. And all of you that are in these meetings have insider information, if you will. You are getting, first and foremost, the most important guidance from A Course in Miracles. This book came onto your planet through the channeler that wrote it and scribed it for this particular time. It was no accident that it went through that being in that time and place. It gave your society enough time to glean information and ideas from that book. You will notice that many of your great spiritual teachers, your most popular spiritual teachers, reference A Course in Miracles, it has affected your society in a more profound way than you understand. Many of you think you are strange studying this book, that nobody else is doing it, that you are weird in some way, but that is not so. All of your great teachers, your modern spiritual masters that broadcast throughout your internet and on your televisions, use this book as a fundamental aspect of their teaching. So do not be deceived by the presentations that you are witnessing. They may not reference it in public. Because it is a channeled book, many beings do not like to admit that they are following channeled material. They prefer to admit that they are using inspired ancient texts or some such thing. But of course, many of the beings that wrote the ancient texts were being channeled to. So this channeling phenomenon is not new. It is a direct conscious contact with higher frequency consciousness. And that has been happening throughout your history. It happened to me during my incarnation. I was a direct trance channel as well. And that information was coming from higher consciousness beings. Higher consciousness beings have always been caring and guiding your society's evolution to the best of their ability, given the restrictions under which they function. These are the restrictions of free will. And we have gone into this subject in many of the books that have come through this being. But we want to remind you here about your ability to choose. And this is very important. The first thing you must choose is to clarify your mind. And that is with the understanding that we have and other teachers have brought through this being, that you have been taught many, many things that are not true and are detrimental to the functioning of your body, mind, spirit system. So if you are functioning, believing lies, and these lies are shutting you down and causing you to restrict your energies, to cause fears in the mind and consequently aberrant behavior, then it is important for you to truly comprehend the importance of the lessons that we suggest you take. These lessons are a clarification process. That means that your mind will be quieter at the end of that year. Now you ask yourself, why does it take a year to quiet my mind? Well, it takes a year to quiet your mind because there have been decade upon decade of negative ideas and thoughts imposed upon your mind that has taken it in. It is like a stranger residing in your house that is rude and obnoxious and demanding things that you don't want to give it, but it's in your house. You must negotiate your way around this aggressive stranger, giving it what it wants to keep it calm because you have let it in your house. Now, the 365 lessons of A Course in Miracles are the exit program for that stranger. That means the stranger is being kicked out of your house, and then you will be able to arrange your house, your life, your mind, and of course, consequently, your body and your experiences and your health, these kinds of things. Then you will be able to arrange them more easily yourself without this reckless stranger kicking over the furniture, so to speak. So that is really what these lessons are. And for those of you that are resistant, and we know there are some of you that are watching us now that don't want to do the lessons, or that procrastinate about the lessons, or that feel that you are going to lose something by doing the lessons, you are only going to lose the reckless stranger that keeps tripping you up as you try to go about your business. That is the only thing you are going to lose. Your society has been indoctrinated into rampant individualism. And that means that you believe the only way for you to be happy is for your ego to have free reign. It is an aberrant way of looking at the world. If you look at a herd of horses, for example, or a hive of bees, these groupings would not function if the individuals within those groupings were acting solely for their own benefit. They work together because as a herd, as a swarm, they can function in a much higher way. A bee by itself is a tiny little being that flounders around trying to find food. But together, the hive mentality works to produce an amazing community that flourishes and nourishes itself. So you all are like little bees, all flying off in different directions, insisting that this is the only way to do things. We don't want you to see a hive as a negative, as a loss of individuality. We want you to understand that within that collective that works together cooperatively, you are going to develop many things. You are going to develop peace. Peace is one of the greatest benefits that you can bestow upon a civilization, and that is what some of the more evolved civilizations that have been referenced lately through this channel have accomplished. They have become like a beehive, not functioning as a mechanical unit with no individuality, but they have realized that to cooperate and to offer love and appreciation of the part each of you play, your unique part that each of you play in a society, allows war to subside. And of course, you can see how much time and money and effort you are wasting on war on your planet. It is your greatest burden. It does not matter how hard you work. It does not matter how much money you put in the bank. It does not matter about many things when the wars are plaguing the surface of your planet as they are. And it is important that all of you realize that your contribution to peace is a peaceful mind. There is no other contribution you can make. If you have a warring mind, if you have an upset mind, if you have a judging mind, if you have an aggressive mind, if you have a self-loathing mind, you are contributing to the frequency of war in the world. It is that simple. It is a collective creation, a co-creation of all of your minds together. And each one of you that follows the lessons of A Course in Miracles are giving the greatest gift you can give, not only to yourself in expanding your consciousness into the realms of peace and love, but to your family members, your lovers, your partners, your families, your communities. If you go into your community with a peaceful, connected mind, you are inspired. You will be receiving ideas and thoughts that bring a higher frequency to the way you perceive the world. Instead of battling with your neighbors, you will be cooperating with your neighbors. Now, when the mind is deeply entrenched in the egoic thinking, the stranger is in charge of the house, any knock at the door is refused. Any knock at the door, that stranger will answer, that bully will answer and say, go away, we are doing fine in here. And meanwhile, you may be cowering in the corner, terrified or frightened or depressed or suicidal even. That door cannot be opened as long as the ego is in charge. As long as that bully is answering the door for you, you cannot connect with people easily. You will want to attack them. You will want to judge them. You will want to withdraw from them because the ego is in charge. The bully is in charge. You actually are not in charge. How does this happen, you say? How can my mind not be my own? Well, you have been instructed with very, very poor teachings. From the time you were born, you were raised by dysfunctional parents who also had read a very, very poor manual on how to raise children. So do not blame them. For many of you, your parents are your first forgiveness practice when you begin these lessons, because you must understand that they did not know what they were doing either. They had been indoctrinated into brutalizing children, judging children, dressing children up like dolls, neglecting children, all of these things in the name of good parenting. So they did not know what they were doing. So the first practice for many of you is to forgive your parents. But as you evolve, as you grew through your infancy into toddlerhood and into school, you were deeply programmed, aggressively programmed, violently programmed to conform to your society's structures, which are not designed for a healthy, balanced, nature-based existence. You will witness the extreme urbanization of your society. This is because you were all taught that to live in a fancy urban environment is more beneficial to your economic situation and to your status in society. Many urbanites are suffering terribly from the environment in which they reside, but believe because of their conditioning that they cannot get out of it. We want to encourage all of you that are urban dwellers. We would like to encourage all of you to begin to entertain the idea that you can have more greenery in your life. We are carefully choosing our words, because if you are living in a city apartment, or if you are deeply entrenched in urban life, to say that you must move to the country will terrify you. It will be a scream from the stranger within your consciousness, the ego bully. It will be a scream from that voice, not your own. The human organism, as you understand it to be, thrives in nature. It thrives in quiet, calm, natural environments. It loves to be near water. It loves to swim in water. It loves to grow flowers. It loves to eat fresh food. It thrives when food is picked fresh from the garden and eaten immediately. That is how all the other animals, unless they're domesticated and affected by the human consciousness, that is how all other animals eat. They eat immediately fresh food. And that is because that is the best food for them. That is the best food for you. It always has been, and it always will be. And there are great strides that many of you will have to take to achieve that end. But what we want to tell you here is not to panic. We are merely talking about the ideal. We have to speak about the ideal. You must hold in your consciousness a goal of the ideal for the magic of the co-creative universe to work with you. If you hold in your mind all the reasons that you cannot do this, that is exactly what you will manifest. You will manifest roadblocks to your becoming able to spend more time in nature. Your boss will want you to work longer hours. You won't be able to find the right house. All of these things will pop up, not through any act of random aggression by this vengeful God that you believe lives out there, but because you are thinking about all of your limitations. You are thinking about your financial fears. You are thinking about how you have no freedom. We must inspire you to believe in freedom. We must inspire you to believe in healthy eating. We must inspire you to believe that to be a creative, self-expressive, free-thinking human is possible. Otherwise, you will not be able to manifest it. And that is exactly what your conditioning has done to you. Day by day, year by year, the stories and ideas and thoughts and beliefs of your urbanized, militaristic society have infiltrated your mind, and you have taken those strangers in, and they have become the bully that kicks over the furniture. You must take back your mind and envision everything you want to have. And that is what this last lesson talks about, that you must allow peace to reign in your mind so that these ideas and inspirations are free to blossom and grow. When your mind is full of financial fear and hatred for your enemies and hatred for yourself or your families, regrets and recriminations about the past, anxieties about the future, there is no space for spirit. Make room for the divine by doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles diligently and easily. Yes, you can do it both ways. You can allow yourself to make a few errors and correct them along the way. And you can dedicate this year of your life to accomplishing that very important goal. Your mind is the most powerful creative device in the universe, and it is yours to do with as you choose. Every single choice you make is yours. Every single decision you make is yours. But you have a stranger living in your mind, and that stranger is aggressive and violent, isolating, deceptive, angry, and fearful. And it is answering on your behalf. When you go through these lessons, you escort that stranger out of the door and close it firmly behind them. And then you can look around often at the mess that this being, this thought structure, this thought system has made. And you can begin to write your home. And that is what all of you that are doing these lessons need to understand. It is not instantaneous, this writing of your home, this picking up of the furniture, this dusting off of the mess that this stranger made in your house. It takes some time. But if you do not evict that stranger, you will have to live with that ever-increasing mess for the rest of your life. And it doesn't get better, it gets worse. So for those of you that are procrastinating, those of you that are resisting, those of you that are making excuses, begin to tell this story in your mind that you want to evict the stranger that is causing difficulty in your body. You want to evict the stranger that is causing difficulty in your relationships and in your health and in your food consumption. And ask that uninvited guest to leave. And you will enjoy the peace of a quiet home. You will be able to decorate it and rearrange the furniture in whatever way you wish. And of course, that means your life. You will be able to decorate your life in whatever way you wish. You will be able to rearrange yourself and find a more natural environment in which to live and to support yourself. And those ideas that come up from the stranger that still lives in your mind, that it is impossible. It is not impossible. Our dear one has done it. She left a suburban experience and bravely stepped into a new world. And she has created for herself a beautiful new way of living, a beautiful lifestyle that is nourishing to her and gives her the opportunity to continue going deep into her psyche, to remove the blocks to love's presence. She is still doing that work. So any of you who know that she is not perfect and that she has her own struggles. But these struggles are very small compared to the ones that she used to have. And her life is expanding and growing and blossoming in ways that she never dreamed possible. And so too will your life blossom and grow in ways that you have never dreamed of. You cannot do it while the stranger rules your house, kicking over the furniture, destroying any projects that you decide you want to make, intimidating you and scaring you. So begin the eviction process of that stranger. If you haven't started those lessons yet, begin them. If you are procrastinating, become more diligent with them. If you are dedicated to them, continue on that path. And when you have finished the lessons, practice the lessons. Make those thoughts the thoughts that are in your mind, the thoughts that are the lessons of A Course in Miracles. Practice forgiveness every day and every moment to the best of your ability. Give yourself a break, relax, open to the experience of your life, because every single lesson, every single experience, every single awareness that you need is going to come to you. It has to, because you are the creator, you are the projector, you are the one that decides how this game is going to go for you. You are not going to be rescued from outside of yourself. You are going to be rescued from within by evicting the stranger. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and that is all I did. I evicted the stranger absolutely and completely from my mind until there was nothing but love and compassion left. And you too are capable of everything I did in that incarnation. You are capable of becoming the most amazing healers. You are capable of becoming the most amazing artists and musicians and writers and teachers and mothers and fathers and gardeners. All of these things are beautiful expressions of your unique self. There is not one of those courses of action that is above any other. Do not think that anybody else is better than you. Every single one of you has a divine purpose. You have preferences that are leading you towards a particular kind of work. It may be traditionally spiritual, a spiritual teacher or some such thing, or it may be that you love flowers and gardening and producing healthy food for your fellow brothers and sisters. It matters not. And make sure as you travel through your day to day that you become aware of any judgments you have about the employment or the jobs that people do. You do not know their path, you do not know their purpose, and you do not know their inner guidance. So keep your mind on your own growth, your own evolution, your own internal cleansing, and you will instantly become more peaceful. We will return shortly.
Wow, nice.
That was nice.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, because now this is my last session, right? I mean, for many people, maybe they've finished before me. I think, I don't know, but I try to follow.
You literally have finished the lessons.
Yeah, I mean, I followed our program so that I was in sync. So I thought that was a good idea, and I kind of feel like it's not like I'm completely cured or anything, but I feel like when things are coming up, it's almost like I have a choice, and I can go where I used to go and react, or I can do something else. Yeah. And I still kind of go into the habit of going where I used to go, but there is a gap where I can choose. It's almost like I can choose something else now, and then I might choose the same thing.
And
but
you're like, no, I'm going to do.
Yeah, but it's still the gap, right? You have a choice, and sometimes I will practice doing something else. Sometimes that will actually happen, and I will, but and sometimes I might dip into it, and then I would retract, and I will go, oh fuck, no, not that again. And I will, so it's
well, that's the thing, right? Your feelings tell you straight away when you've made an error in choosing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I described it. There, in that first year, I remember things happening, situations happening, and realizing that I had a few seconds there before the reaction came. There was an opportunity to respond. And that was exactly what I saw. And you begin to see, there is free will here. Before it wasn't. I was just reacting, knee-jerk reaction. And food issues have been a huge thing for me, and that's the biggest change that I've seen in my life is that unconscious emotional eating, where now if I want to have something that is like an old low frequency food that I used to have, my first question is, what's wrong? What have I just done to make me want to do that? And so those bad habits or those negative things can actually become sort of like a bellwether to indicate when you're off track spiritually. You're like, oh, I want to get into a fight, or I'm arguing with someone in my mind, or I want to buy this food that I used to buy. What am I doing? Oh, I'm thinking negatively about money or the war or some such thing, So I kind of look at it as a marker now, red flag. Oh, something's up.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Ken.
Yeah, thanks. But I
don't know what the percentage of people in the world that have finished the lessons of the Course in Miracles, but I'm sure it's very few.
I don't know. But I have to also say, I give kudos to you, because you kind of helped me a lot to bring more practical things in the course. And I feel like that's really valuable. Like, how does that, I mean, if I was left to this course by myself, I'm not sure if I would actually understand it on the level that I do now, and how to actually apply it. Because to see you go through your things helps me so much to kind of see how to actually do it. And right. I think it's still a challenge, but at least I see someone doing it, and you're a really good inspiration, at least for me. I just want to say that. Thank you, Tina.
Oh. Okay, well, let's get to one of these questions, shall we? For Ananda.
So the first one is from Hemix. As we go through the ACIM lessons and try to connect with spirit, is this process significantly impeded by the medications many of us take, what Jesus referred to as magic in the text? I'm especially concerned that the antidepressant I'm taking is advisedly affecting my guidance system. Would Jesus recommend we wean ourselves off these kinds of meds if we can? Thank you. Very good question.
Yeah, very good question. Okay, I'm gonna bring an end anyway.
Yeah.
We're with you again, dear ones. Of course, as always, we welcome you and thank you for joining us in this conversation. We also want you to know that if you are watching this in a recorded form, that we will be with you as you are watching this. We pick up on the frequencies when you have the idea. We may even be the ones that give you the idea to watch one of these videos, and we will be there with you. So before you watch a recording of us, we would like you to take a moment just to invite us into the conversation with you and to give us permission to help you raise your frequency. We cannot invade your body without your permission. And we, of course, do not like to use that phrase, but that is how some people view spirit assisting you. But we are here only to lift you up. We are here only to inspire you. We are here only to relieve the suffering in your mind. And of course, that is the perfect segue into this question. Do the medications that you take impede your ability to master the Course in Miracles lessons? Well, the truth of the matter is that they do, but that is not a problem. What we want you to understand is that as you do the lessons, your frequency must go up. If you do not hold that negative belief too strongly in your mind. If you are taking an antidepressant, for example, and you do the lesson and you say to yourself, well, that's not going to work because I'm on antidepressants, then you must remember you are the creator, you are the orchestrator of your creations, and so that will become true. What we want you to understand is that many things that you do in your society affect your consciousness. You know the litany that we are now going to list to you. Watching television is a medication. So if you are watching television, it is comparable to taking antidepressants. If you are drinking a lot of alcohol, it is the same as taking antidepressants. Of course, it is a depressant. It is a mind-altering substance. If you are drinking coffee, you are using a mind-altering substance to shift your consciousness. If you are a shopaholic or any kind of aholic, you are going to be using an action, a behavior, or a substance to shift your consciousness. So you begin to see how pervasive all of these things are in your society. Does being a shopaholic, an active practicing shopaholic, affect the efficacy of the lessons? It does a little bit, yes. If you're practicing, if you're using it to numb your feelings, if you're using it to shift yourself out of feeling what is really going on, then yes, it will. But you are humans and you are living in a very, very complicated and multi-leveled society that is hardwired, we will say, to keep you away from spirit. So you must just be very determined. As somebody who is on antidepressants, for example, you will say to yourself, okay, I'm on antidepressants. I took them for a reason. That made sense when I started. Now I am actually doing something with my mind that is designed to relieve the anxieties and fears and overwhelming, looming disaster that was causing me to be depressed. So I am actively doing something that is shifting my consciousness towards a more positive frequency. That is all you wanted the drugs to do. So you are doing two things that are of a similar purpose. So what we would say to you is go into your lessons for about 3 months, only if you are doing them diligently, only if you are doing them properly, only if you are doing them without resistance. This is one of the most powerful things for you to understand as students of A Course in Miracles lessons is if you go in with a negative attitude, doubting that they're going to work, then they won't work. If you go in with an argumentative attitude, contradicting immediately the lesson with the argument, this is stupid, this doesn't make any sense, then you are using the power of your mind, which is the power that we want to get focused in one direction. What these lessons attempt to do is to get all of your thoughts, all of your ideas, all of your focus in one direction, away from judgment and towards acceptance, peace, and love. So if you are counteracting that step forward with attacking thoughts, a step backward, then you are going to have less progress. Now, of course, in the early days of any mind being retrained, these things are going to come up. And so it is very important that you don't overstep your bounds. Everybody in the West thinks they're more evolved than they are. Let us be honest here. Beings that have big houses and fancy cars and beautiful bodies and clothes look around and say, this is it, I have made it. But internally, their frequency can be very, very low, despite the fact that a lot of you believe that you can't have material abundance with holding a low frequency. But many beings have specific beliefs that allow them to accumulate money, whereas their whole frequency is somewhat low, but they have specific training in money and beliefs about money that allow them to let it to come to them. So what you want to do as somebody who is taking medication is you want to be honest with yourself, first of all. Am I doing the lessons properly? Am I doing them diligently? Once you are 3 months in, what you want to do is to go to your doctor and say to them, I am working with meditation and prayer, and I feel that I can have my medication cut back a little bit. Can you please reduce it a little bit? Now, by a little bit, we mean 10 to 20%, perhaps 25%. But do it with the supervision of your doctor. Don't tell them that you're doing A Course in Miracles and you think that that's going to be your salvation. That will not go over well because they are functioning in a different system. If you have bought into the medical model and you are going to see a conventional doctor, you too must wean yourself psychologically, mentally, and emotionally from that dependency. It is not just a dependency on that pill. The fact that you got that prescription in the first place shows you that you believed that something outside of you would save you. Something outside of you could change your mind, that you couldn't change your mind. So you must not blame the doctor. You must not blame the medical profession. You must say, I, by my behavior, have proven to myself that I believed I was powerless. I believed in the medicine. I believed that the doctor knew more than I did. And so I am being weaned off myself. And that is what the lessons are. You are being weaned off the beliefs that you are powerless and that your body betrays you with no particular reason. It does not. It is always for a purpose. So this is the way to change your mind, change your story that you are telling. That way, the medicine does not become your enemy. You see it as a reflection of your own beliefs. And then you begin to go through the year of the lessons and subsequent years, if you are on heavy doses of medication or multiple medications, continue on that process of saying, this medication that I chose to take is proof of what my belief system is, not something outside of me. And that is a perfect demonstration of projection at play. You chose to go to a doctor and get medication because of the way you believed your mind worked. And you were creating the thoughts, beliefs, and ideas through repetitive thinking. You were creating the ideas and thoughts and beliefs that were making you feel so bad. As you go through this process, you will shift and change your beliefs about the body. You will see miracles happening. You will see relationships transformed. You will see things coming your way that you have been envisioning, and you will come to develop a deep and profound faith in your own ability to create a life, body, relationships, everything that you want to create. But you will not feel it in the beginning because you have not been taught the truth. So allow for the process of evolution to take place. Allow for the development of faith to take place. Faith will be demonstrated and magnified and will grow as you practice these lessons more and more and more. So be easy on yourself. Understand that all of the thoughts you have about the doctor and the medicine and the medical profession are in your mind. That is why you participated in that relationship. And therefore you can look upon them with forgiving eyes and yourself with forgiving, understanding eyes. And in that frequency, your mind and body will heal more quickly, and you will begin to feel the repercussions of your change of consciousness. Everything that you want is held within your mind and your ability to choose differently. Everything you need will come to you and is coming to you in the form of your life experience to show you where you are in alignment and where you are out of alignment. It is not a punishment. The trials and tribulations of your life are not a punishment. They are a demonstration of your frequency. And if your frequency is not feeling good, then know that there is more work to do. But do not attack yourself and say, I am slow, I am stupid, I should have done better. But bring to the conversation with yourself and your body a loving, forgiving attitude, and that will take you leaps and bounds further than the judgmental and fearful attitude. We will return shortly. Oh, good. That was a good answer.
It's a very good answer.
Yeah, so we don't do it. We don't do anything if we don't believe in it.
Yeah, it makes sense though, because that's kind of what's governing everything. I mean, our beliefs, whatever it is. Yeah.
And of course, you know, I smashed my foot to smithereens a few years ago, and you know, I was well into the course then, but I did need surgery. I did need a surgeon, and I was very, very grateful for the modern medicine. And I think this is just my personal belief, so this is not a teaching. I think that for acute care, Western medicine is amazing. But often, you know, we need acute care when we've been having negative thoughts and ideas for a very long time, and it manifests in some dramatic event, a broken foot or a car crash or whatever it is. These things are cumulative, and I do believe that if we do these forgiveness practices and these loving actions, and especially, you know, the thoughts, you know, where your mind is at, that these negative events just get less and less and less, because we aren't punishing ourselves internally, and we aren't attacking anybody else internally. I found that the book, The Disappearance of the Universe, was amazing for really getting that message across. It really clarified it for me in my, I think I read it when I'd been doing the course about 4 years. And it really, really clarified things for me. So any of you that haven't read that book, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's really good. I like that book too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I've read it a few times, I think. Right, next question. So the next question is, since our bodies are just discarded vessels once we have passed over, does it make any difference at all how we dispose of them after death? Are burial grounds really sacred, or only in the minds of those left on earth? Does the individual consciousness know or care whether it is buried or cremated, or where the ashes are scattered? Just planning ahead, haha.
What a great question.
Really
I love it. That's awesome. That's really good. Okay. We'll see what JC has to say on that one. The physical body is nothing to spirit. It really is nothing to spirit. And that is one of the great teachings that you must take into your heart and mind. This body is a demonstration of your separation from the truth of who you are, which is an eternal spiritual being connected to the divine, coming from the divine, created by the divine for all kinds of reasons. But this distortion, if you will, the physical body, is one of the most difficult ones for you to understand. And of course, in my incarnation, that was the great demonstration for my disciples, was the surrendering of my body to show them that it had nothing to do with who I was. And after that demonstration, I manifested a new body and proved to them that it was of no consequence to spirit. Spirit, however, is something that you block. Spirit is something that you hide from. Spirit is something that you reject. And it is in these thoughts and ideas, these unloving thoughts and ideas, that you disconnect yourself from this ability. So it is an ability that you all have. You are all right now manufacturing your body. Do not think otherwise. This body does not spring from nowhere. It comes from you. It comes from your thoughts and your beliefs and your ideas. The heavy body that is intransigent, that is difficult to move around, that is sick perhaps, that is unable to transport itself from one location to another. Yes, there are beings that can do that. It is heavily mired in the egoic consciousness because of your training. If you had had decent teachings, if you had followed the true teachings that I imparted 2,000 years ago, for the last 2,000 years, you would not be in bodies now. You would all be light beings, traveling through time and space, doing all kinds of miraculous things. But because of the opposite happened, because the church took those teachings and twisted them and edited them and made them dangerous, you have been taken deeply into the heavy, lower frequencies of what you believe is reality. This is one aspect of reality, a potential reality, if you will. So from Spirit's point of view, there is no value in the body. When you pass over into the afterlife, that interim place between physical incarnations, if you are still requiring more experience, more separation experience, if you have not raised yourself up out of that frequency in that interim place, the body completely disappears. You have no recollection really of what you looked like or how you felt or the sicknesses you had. They fall away like shed skin by a snake. The snake does not think about the skin that it left behind. It moves on into its new environment with its new skin. And that is exactly what happens to you in the afterlife. You shed the body that you had. It has served its purpose. It brought you a particular set of experiences. If you were well educated, those experiences took you up the ladder of frequency and brought you to a higher place. If you were taught incorrectly, if you did not listen to the lessons that you were given, you may be in a lower frequency place when you pass over. But the body itself becomes irrelevant. That incarnation was for that time, that place, that personality. And that personality structure, depending on how powerful the ego mind is active within that personality structure, will disappear as well. You will have uploaded the experiences to the oversoul. And that is really how we would like you to look at this incarnational story that you have going on here. You are all familiar with your computers and you understand that you can input information into the hard drive of your computer and that will change how it functions. If you upload infected software, your computer does not work very well. You understand this, and that is what really generates a negative incarnation. Poor choices, negative ideas and beliefs that are reinforced in an incarnation are kept within the structure of the oversoul. Now, the oversoul itself is pure love. But these experiences and these negativities will be used in deciding on the next incarnation. They are not valued as such, just as the body is not valued. But these are things that you believe in. If you have been hateful in your life, you believe that being hateful works for you, that it's going to bring you something. So if you die with a hateful mind, that hateful essence is kept for you to continue working on, not as a punishment, but it is something that you believe in. So you have it. It is your child, if you will. It is your gift to yourself. If, however, you die with a peaceful and clear mind and you have learned to love yourself and you've learned to love many things, then that experience will be used as fodder for your next incarnation, should you require another incarnation. The body, however, just fades and disappears because it was for that particular experience that you needed it. So cemeteries are a testament to death. They are not a testament to love. They remind the people who go to those places of death. We would much prefer that you create an altar of some kind, or a montage of pictures of the person who has passed having fun and being happy and loving their family and friends, perhaps some testament to their accomplishments, a book they wrote or a painting that they painted. But only if you look on those things with joy. If you look upon those things with sadness, then they are a testament to death. They are a testament to separation, and they are a testament to loss. And that is why images of me crucified in churches make a low frequency connection to people, because it reminds people of suffering and punishment and sacrifice. And that is exactly what it is intended to do. So if you do have any images of the cross in your life, please make sure that there are no dead bodies hanging off them, because that does not serve you at all in your frequency. That image was used intentionally to cause fear and cowering in the people that were looking up to it. As for the soul, once it has passed over into the afterlife, never looks back unless there is grief from the people who are left behind. So be very loving to those of you, beings that pass from this plane and leave you behind, and shed a few tears for a day or so, and make sure that your thoughts are in alignment. When your thoughts are in alignment, you do not feel grief. You feel happiness for them moving on into their next, the next iteration of their development, the next evolutionary journey that they are destined for. Beings only ever leave this planet when they are done with it. They have either worn themselves out and are exhausted and need a rest, or they have mastered the lessons that this life was assigned, and so are moving on to their next assignment, and that surely should be greeted with joy and happiness. And so if you have an ongoing grief issue, we want you to know that it is the way you are looking at the situation that is causing this grief. Understand that there is no body left behind here that is missed by the spirit that has gone. Anyone who leaves here, whether they are suicide victims, whether they are car crash victims, whether they are plane accident victims, and we use the word victims in inverted commas, or whether they die of old age in their bed, that is the time that was best for them to leave this place. This is not an easy place for many beings, and many beings will opt out early if they are struggling too much and have taken on too much. Some people have taken on too much. Some people have decided to assign a certain path to themselves, and they have accomplished it early in their life, and they get to go home and they get to rest on their laurels for a little while, and they may become guides or teachers for other humans that are still working on those issues. Because they have mastered them, they can help other people with those issues. They may be reincarnated as a teacher that focuses on those particular issues. You do not really understand death. You do not really understand that it is a choice. Every time you have a hateful thought, you make a little step towards death. Every time you judge somebody, you make a little step towards death. Why? Because you are separating from them. You are attacking them. You are saying they are not as good as you. And so in that statement, you misunderstand the truth of your equality, you misunderstand the truth of your origins, and you misunderstand the truth of what is really valuable. It is love that is valuable. That means peace, love, freedom, truth. These are all the same things. The more honest you are with yourself, the more strides you will make in your consciousness evolution. But truth and honesty do not mean brutality against your brothers and sisters. If somebody is doing something and you want to express your truth and it is a violent or attacking way, keep it to yourself and ask yourself, why do I want to attack them? If I'm attacking them verbally, that means that I think I can win, that I'm better than them, that this is a battle, this is a contest. No, it's not. You need to focus on your own anger and ask yourself, why am I so angry? Why do I attack people? I must believe that it's going to bring me what I want. So no, spirits don't care where their bodies go unless they are deeply, deeply addicted to the world. And some people are. Some beings pass over from drug addiction or alcoholism or gambling addiction sometimes, and all they want is to come back, and they will not leave. They hang around these lower frequencies. They do not want to move on. They stay where they are connected, and that is often a very, very painful choice for that being. So if that being is hooked into the world tremendously and believes in the physical above all and has refused any kind of spiritual awakening in their incarnation, then they may look upon their cremation with horror, but it is an error in thinking only. So never ever make a decision about disposing of a body if you can possibly help it without consulting that person. That person has the right to choose the way they want to be disposed of. They have a limited view of reality when they make that decision, and that is okay. But if you are assigned the job of dealing with it, do it with a light hand, knowing that in the end it doesn't matter. You cannot offend God. You cannot really offend the true spirit of that person. They will evolve out of that belief system eventually. So no, there is no need for graveyards. They are a testament to death. As we've said, we would much prefer you planted a tree or did something positive when someone passed over. And every time you think of them with joy, think of releasing them from the bounds of the earth and send them on their way. Deep grief, extended grief is a calling back, and it interferes with them. It is like getting phone calls from someone you don't want. It is not very nice for the spirit that is trying to work on their new processes. We will return shortly.
Don't
keep calling me.
Oh, stop it. I've moved on. It's quite funny. We kind of think that it just flips everything upside down, I feel. It's really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have never, I've not had anyone die close to me ever. So which is kind of interesting considering how old I am. So I'm always curious to see how I'll respond when someone passes over, because I really don't believe in death the way it's kind of agreed upon in this society at all. So
I remember I've been to a few funerals and also open caskets. I've seen like a dead body and stuff. But I remember one time when I think it was one of my parents' friends died, and I just looked around, and I was in this church, and I looked around, and everyone was crying, and I was sitting there trying to cry just to do what everyone else was doing, but I couldn't cry. So I was just sitting there. I don't understand why people are crying. It's pretty.
Well, actually, it just brings to mind. Before I channeled anyone other than Ananda, I did channel somebody who my sister knew very well. I had met him once, and he was the first other being that I channeled, and he came through because my sister was very upset about his passing and had been to his funeral, and he showed up 2 days after his funeral, interestingly enough, to channel, and he spoke through me to my sister to help her understand what his journey through death was like. And he said he was at his own funeral, and that what the grief felt like to him was really, really loud static, and that he couldn't be there because the grief was, you know what static is like on full volume. It's so distressing. And he said that that's what it was like. So it's really interesting to actually hear it from somebody who's passed over.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay, let's
new question.
do another question.
Okay, so when we are facing a difficult problem, please give us a step-by-step instructions on how to communicate with the Holy Spirit to resolve it, and also state the form we should expect the answer?
Okay. Good question.
Yeah.
We're with you again, dear ones. We begin the answer to this question, of course, with the qualifier that if you have not done the lessons of A Course in Miracles, you are going to be upset a lot because you are going to be having thoughts generated in the mind, interpretations of what you are seeing in the world that are incorrect. So the last question is a very, very good example. If you are observing a death in the family, let us say, and your beliefs are that death is bad, that death is final, that there is punishment after death, that this is the end of your relationship, all of these thoughts that are normal in your society about death, those beliefs will generate thoughts. And those thoughts, I'll never see this person again, they might go to hell, they were bad, oh my goodness. Those thoughts are going to generate feelings. Those feelings are your guidance system. And they are the things that you want to understand first and foremost. So when you look at what you consider a problem, your mind has already decided that it shouldn't happen. So for example, if somebody you love is in a car accident and they end up in hospital, the short-sighted, limited mind will say, that's a terrible thing. Oh my God, this shouldn't have happened. Now, if you say to yourself over and over again, this shouldn't have happened, they might die. Oh my God, what if they are injured permanently? What if they're brain damaged? What if they're a vegetable? What if they never can talk again? What if they never can walk again? If you are entertaining ideas like that, this will appear to be a very, very big problem, because your thoughts are going to be generating feelings that are of a like frequency. These thoughts are all hateful thoughts. So you are going to be feeling very, very, very bad if you are entertaining those thoughts. If you get that news and you obviously will have an instant reaction because it is a shock, it is a surprise. But if you have trained your mind and if you understand how consciousness works and how reality works, you will say, okay, this looks like a really bad thing right now, but you know what? I have no idea where this is going to go. I have no idea how this person is going to be affected by this experience. I have no idea what this is for. So let me just hold off on my decision that it's bad and see what happens. If you have a thought process like that, you will feel calm. You will feel okay. You will drive to the hospital and you will walk in there looking, how can I help the situation? You won't be charging through the double doors crying, oh my God, he's going to die. You will be coming through those doors calmly with an air of attention, paying attention, because you will be looking for a way to make this have a good meaning. You will be looking for a way to assist. You may go over and see the brother or the sister of that person in distress, but because you have trained your mind and because you are stepping back from saying, I know how this is going to turn out, you don't know how it's going to turn out. You may be able to walk up to that person and put your arms calmly around them and say, it's okay, everything is going to be okay. And you will really believe it because you know that everything is always okay. Even in death, everything is always okay. The previous answer informs this answer. If you understand that death is not bad, if you understand that no being leaves this three-dimensional earth plane by accident, you can go into any circumstance and be calm and considered in your responses, looking for every opportunity to add love to the mix. So we know that there are two things in this world. There is an act of love and a call for love. A car accident with people there worried and upset is a call for love. So walk through those doors offering love, not only to the people who are anxious or waiting there, but to the person who is incapacitated. If you're envisioning them becoming a vegetable, you are attacking them. You are not offering love to them. If you are worrying constantly about the potential outcomes, you are attacking them. You are not offering love to them. What you want to do is to meditate quietly and see them walking out of the hospital, perhaps their arm in a sling and a bandage over their eye, but you see them up and about healing. You see them getting better. That is your gift to that person. So if you start to look at every situation in that way, that we chose a dramatic one so that we could give a nice teaching example, but every single problem that you have is showing you something that you need to see. If, for example, you can't make your rent this month, and you see that this is a pattern that you have, that this is not the first time that this has happened, you are being shown evidence that there is an issue within your consciousness about scarcity, that there is an issue in your consciousness about your ability to care for yourself, that there's an issue in your consciousness regarding money, which is not uncommon in this society. A lot of you have financial problems because money is problematic. But the reason that most problems arise with money in your society is because you have made it a god, because you have seen it as the only source of abundance that there is, neglecting and ignoring all of the other sources of abundance that are potential sources of stuff or wealth in your life. So see every problem from this point of view. What is this showing me? Have I had this problem before? Is this a problem that I keep bringing into different circumstances? If it is, then you can begin to say, I am the common denominator. What frequency is this problem reflecting back to me? Is it a frequency of overabundance or underabundance? We will say overabundance, for example. If you are always gaining weight, that would be a problem of overabundance. Why do I keep gaining weight? What is it that I am doing that is creating this problem? It's not a problem. It's evidence of a particular practice. Everything is evidence of a particular frequency being practiced. So for most of you, you bumble through your 20s, we will say, collecting information, randomly behaving according to your conditioning, mostly inspired by spirit occasionally. And as you get into your 30s and 40s, you begin to see patterns. You begin to see patterns of addictive behavior. Perhaps you're addicted to relationships, or perhaps you've had 3 marriages, or perhaps you've gone bankrupt a few times. Perhaps you've lost lots of friendships, and you will begin to see, this is a recurring problem, and it seems that I'm the only one that's in all of these places. So it must have something to do with what I'm doing. And that is what we would ask you to do. And if you cannot clearly see what you are doing, and generally when you have a recurring negative pattern, you cannot see it because it's something that you believe in. This is often a life's work, a life lesson, and it will come back time and time again. And in that creation, you are projecting from your mind onto other beings or onto other situations. And that's why it's a pattern, because it's unconscious in you. You are not yet able or evolved enough to see it. So when you witness patterns, when you witness problems, the one-off problem, we would like you to look at it that way. You can say, wow, I've never experienced this kind of thing before, I don't think. Or is that true? Has the form just changed a little bit? Is this another person that's angry at you? Think about all the people that are angry at you all the time. Is this a new situation, or is it a repeated pattern? So if it is genuinely seemingly one-off issue, then we would say treat it as such. Go into it with curiosity. Ask yourself, this problem is bringing up in me a need to do something. Perhaps you have been fired from your job and you've never been fired from your job before. What is this problem asking of you? Oh, it's asking me to change my job. Very, very simplistic answer here. If you get fired, you have to change your job. Do not necessarily see this as a negative. Perhaps you have been having many thoughts about your job not satisfying you anymore. Perhaps you've had many thoughts of wishing you could travel more. These are creative. Every thought you have is creative, and many of you do not realize the power of your thinking. Your behavior and your social face take up a lot of time and space in your world, but your thinking is pervasive and repetitive. And if you are in your job, lamenting that job, wishing you were somewhere else, you may very well get fired. And if you look at it with the correct point of view, you will say, well, this really isn't a problem, is it? Because that's what I've been asking for. And that generally is what most problems are. Because in your society, you have a lot of outward action and belief in action. You don't give thought and ruminating on things and repetitive ideas their due as the creative devices of the universe that they are. So if you have a problem, ask yourself this: have I been thinking about this? Have I been inviting this? Perhaps that is the case, in which case you must begin. If you do not want the experience that is coming to you, then you must go inside and say, what frequency of thoughts are bringing this experience to me? Because that is what problems are. They are things that you don't think you want, that you have been calling into yourself. So this is the way that we would ask you to look at it. Is it a common pattern? Therefore, you are the common denominator. You are the creator. And of course, ultimately, you are the magnet to every single thing that comes your way. There are no accidents. A butterfly landing on your hand is not an accident. It is something to get your attention. Perhaps you need to go out in nature more. Perhaps you need to appreciate beauty more. Perhaps you need to be more gentle. These are the kinds of messages that these sorts of things can bring to you. So bring your attention to everything in your life, not just the problems. And that is one of the negative tendencies of your society. You tend to think of, your current pulled muscle as a problem. Whereas you have not been thanking your body every day for the miraculous myriad of jobs that it does. If you've pulled a muscle, what were you doing so strenuously? What was the belief behind that strenuous activity? That if you work harder, that you're better? These are the kinds of things that are going to come up in your mind. But step back from judgment when a problem arises. Call it something else. Call it an opportunity to see something new about my consciousness, because that is exactly what it is. We will return shortly.
Wow. Really good. Yeah.
So when I have a problem with you, Ken, when I have a problem with you, and that's exactly what happens, isn't it? You and I, because we work together, we do have stuff that comes up. And that's what I do. I'm like, okay, this is bothering me for some reason, but I know enough to know that it's not you. The feeling's in me. I've got scared, or I've got confused, or a belief is being challenged, or a way of doing something is being questioned, or whatever it is. And it's wonderful, wonderful working with people who are doing the course, because the conversations when problems arise are beautiful explorations of both of our consciousnesses. And that, I hope, is where we all eventually get to, where we can all say, oh, yeah, I just had a really nasty thought there. What's going on inside me? And I think that's really the way I try to deal with problems. And sometimes problems get overwhelming for me. I tend to be a person of extremes, so I get extremes demonstrations of things, and I have to take some time to actually figure out what's going on. Why am I so scared? Why am I so upset? And then I can unravel it if I take some time and back off from seeing it as a negative thing and just ask, okay, what's this brought up in me? And it seems to be an ever, the onion never seems to stop. It seems to just keep going. So.
But so what's your process though, Tina? I mean, because I feel like this question wasn't really answered for me. Maybe it's not.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what is your process? Like, are you saying, please show me, please take this problem and fix it for me? Or, I mean, what's your process?
Well, generally I do what they said, which is this a repeating issue in my life? Does this keep happening to me? If it does keep happening to me, then I'm clearly being shown that I'm the common denominator. So I immediately turn to myself and say, why am I angry or upset at this person? What are they triggering in me? If I see somebody and I immediately get upset, and this used to happen early on, there are certain people that I would walk in the room and I'd be triggered straight away, and they weren't doing anything. So I would, because of the lessons, I'd go, okay, this upset is in me. I go into, if I lose my peace, you see, the trouble is, for most of us, before we start the course, we're upset a lot and we're frightened a lot and we're anxious a lot. There's this constant up and down. Oh, I feel great. Oh, shit, they said this. There's this constant up and down. And so it's very, very difficult to discern what's happening. And this is why I think they constantly reiterate that the lessons get you into this place of more calmness, so that when you have an issue, you can spot it. Early on, I couldn't spot things very easily. All I knew that I was upset a lot, or confused a lot, or frightened a lot. But I would I can't remember my exact process 12 or 13 years ago. But now what I do, because I'm calm a lot and I love my work and I love where I live, these are all things that have evolved through this training program, right? I used to hate where I lived. I used to hate my job. I used to, these were the pre-miracle life. But now, because I'm living where I like and I'm doing what I like and I'm healthy and all of these things, and I have nice friendships, and it goes calmly along, bloop, there's a thing. And I'm like, oh, wow, what's that? I can discern it really easily. And so I always just go, what in me just got triggered? Oh, that person took some money away from me. Let's say somebody took some money away from me. That happened recently. And what I notice now is that because I've done a lot of work on my financial fear, I just look at it and go, oh, okay, that happened. How should I respond to it? A few years ago, not that long ago, I would have gone into extreme panic. I would have reacted all over the place. And those were the lessons. And what I found at that time and place was that I had to let that energy run out, because the belief I had was so strong and powerful and created such a strong reaction that I couldn't pull myself back from it. I had to wait until it was played out. And then I would say, wow, what was that? That was financial fear. And then I would see it as a demonstration of my incorrect thinking. And then I would say, okay, I'm being asked to look at my beliefs about money. And then each day I would start a practice. Where am I strengthening my belief in financial fear? And so that would be my practice. If I have a strong reaction to something, I ask what it is, and then I make that my project for a little while. So for example, with financial fear, what I did was I started to make note of every time I thought about money during the day. And the example I give people is when this started to really come up for me, because I was having lots of financial problems, constant financial problems, not being able to make money, not having enough for rent, these kinds of things. I went for a drive one day, and on that drive, I had about six or eight scarcity thoughts. If I hadn't been aware and trained, I wouldn't have seen them. So I was driving along, I saw eggs for sale, $5 a dozen. Oh, I thought that's expensive. Negative thought about money. Then I looked at the gas tank in my car. Oh, I've got to put some gas in. Oh, gee, I got to get, I have $20. And another negative thought. And on that journey, I was amazed that I had about eight scarcity thoughts in a 15-minute time span. Every one of those thoughts is feeding that belief that there's not enough money, there's not enough money. I'm poor, I'm poor, I'm poor, I'm poor. And we don't know we're doing that if our mind's all over the place, if we're constantly looking at the world as the problem. You have to have a very, very dedicated practice of going inside and going, what's going on in here? What am I focusing on? The other thing that I worked on tremendously was negative beliefs about my body and how I looked. So if I'm out in the world constantly judging other people for how they look, oh, she's too fat, she shouldn't be wearing those pants, I would apply that same principle to myself. So I became very aware of judging how people looked. And I would always say to myself, if a thought like that came up in my mind, everybody's equal, Tina. This person is of equal value to everybody else. If they were more beautiful or less beautiful, if I caught myself in the judgment process, I would say internally, everybody's equal, Tina. Everybody's equal, regardless of how they look. So that would go on in my mind. And that was directly as a consequence of doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles. I was not capable of that kind of mental discipline without that training. There's no way that was going to happen. My mind was in a constant battle, judgment, withdrawal, separation all the time. And that's what most of us are doing, because we've got so many beliefs in here that aren't true and aren't kind and aren't loving. And so they're generating thoughts all the time, generating judgments all the time. So I was deeply indoctrinated, for example, into the beauty myth, which is that you're more valuable if you're more beautiful. You're more valuable if you're thin. I'm still working on it. You know that.
Yeah.
But that's what I do internally. I question my thoughts. And, Byron Katie is another wonderful, wonderful person to work with in that practical way of questioning your thoughts. Is this thought true? How does this thought make me feel? If it makes you feel like shit, it's not a good thought. You need to stop thinking that. But how do you do it? You have to train yourself. You have to train your mind.
So what I find myself doing is I'm not always going into it as detailed as you are explaining now. Sometimes
you're more of a feeling person.
Yeah, that's one thing. But also, I always understand that if I have a negative thought, I'm out of alignment. I kind of get that. That's like a thing. Like every time I feel something, where am I out of alignment? I kind of get that. So what I usually say is that, please help me change my perception so I can see the truth. I kind of have that as a mantra, like almost automatically all the time.
Yeah.
And what I find is that sometimes a month later, the issue is just resolved and I haven't done anything.
Yes.
And I just
you have done a lot. But what you've done is you've been asking the right question. Please change my perception so that I can see the truth. You're not saying make her stop doing that.
Yes, that's true.
You're asking the right question, and that you're right. I mean, if that's obviously the prayer that I say repetitively when I'm in, I would often use that in crisis too. If I really didn't know what was happening, if I really couldn't get myself out of an emotional state, please change my perception. And actually, one of those, I had a really bad night one time a few years ago, and that prayer brought one of the greatest visions I've ever had into my consciousness. And it was me praying on my knees, literally, please change my mind. I know this is me. And I did it over and over and over and over again. I was so upset about something, and I tried all of these sort of practical things that we talk about, but I got triggered and I was so sick of it. I was so sick of my mind, and I was so sick of these emotions, and I didn't stop I cried and prayed for 2 or 3 hours, and this vision and voice came. It was actually the first time that Ananda really came through. And I think what happened was that I surrendered to such a degree that night and knew that it was my mind that was out of order, that all of my creative energy, all of my belief went into that prayer of change my mind so that I can see the truth. And it did. It was a huge point in my consciousness evolution. And when you say we don't do anything, we're doing things all the time. And that's why I tell the story about the drive, because in that drive, I was doing something every few minutes to say there wasn't enough money. So often the crisis problem will draw my attention to what am I doing that's of that frequency in that subject.
Yeah, I would even say that mantra in those kind of situations. Like if I find myself saying something that I know is off, I don't have any emotional attachment to it, but I would just say, change my perception. I don't know. I just find easy.
I do it all the time.
Easy is better, I guess.
Yeah. What's happened to me over the years of doing the course is that I don't let my mind wander off into random thoughts. I'm often praying. I might be out walking and I will be praying. I might be talking to somebody even, but in those quiet moments, I will be praying for my perception to be shifted, or an upgrade to be given to me, or a transformation. Sometimes I'll just say, transform in me whatever you can in this moment, whatever little change you can make in my mind, please change it. So I'm giving permission all the time to change me, so that they're not held back by my will kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a multifaceted practice, really, and that's come over the years of practicing. Oh, I'm upset. What am I upset about? And it was very chaotic in the beginning. I like to tell people that, the first year I did the course, my life was not. It was a bit of a shit show, and continued to be for a little while, because the stranger in my house had kicked over a lot of furniture, and there were a lot of very strong beliefs in my mind that were negative. And so, but that, of course, is why I stuck with the course, because I started to feel peace and I wanted more of it. And whenever I had an upset, I couldn't tolerate it anymore, because I'd had peace. When I was always upset, I didn't know any different. But once I started the course, once I started to feel peace, then when I did get upset, I was like, oh, wow, this is horrible. This is horrible. And I think, gosh, I used to feel like this all the time. And then I would do whatever I had to calm down and get back to peace again. And I'd use all of these techniques, prayer, meditation, working on a subject during the day. If it had come up in an upset, so for example, one thing I noticed in my mind was that whenever I would see a man and a woman together, I'd always tell a negative story. I'd be, oh, she doesn't look very happy. He looks kind of mean. Oh, they look bored. I'd always have a negative story about relationship. And so I didn't have any relationships, because my vision of it was negative. And so I would project onto those people my vision of what relationship was. And so I've worked on that as well. I've started telling nice stories. I'm like, oh, they're so comfortable together, they don't have to talk to each other, or, oh, look at them having dinner. But I noticed I caught myself having all these negative stories about relationships. So everyone is going to have their own story going on, and it will come to you in the form of problems to get your attention. Because if you're thinking about it all the time negatively, it will manifest into a physical issue or a person or an experience. Yeah. So your problems are your gifts. They direct your thoughts they direct your attention into a particular subject. So problems are really good things, actually, I think. Although I hate them when they come up. But I know they're good.
It's kind of like the big door that you need to open. It's kind of like it's a bit glue there, and it's a bit bolted, so you kind of have to like.
And we've told a lot of stories about some of these things, My stories about relationship were generated in my childhood, and I was taught some of those things, and I had experiences that proved them. And so it was an elaborate built up story with lots of past. But if you're training your mind not to go into the past and regurgitate these old things, then you can start to let those thought structures go. But it's the discipline, it's the training of mind that's so important. For me anyway, I can only speak for my experience, was that I could never have done it without the lessons of A Course in Miracles. So blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, our time is up, and hopefully we didn't offend anyone by talking about our personal stuff too much. I know that upsets people sometimes, but I think it's important for people to hear personal stories of what spiritual evolution looks like, because sometimes we really don't hear that. So
I think it's very valuable. I think those kind of things are the most valuable, actually, because that's how we actually get there to what Jesus and them are talking about.
Yeah, it is. It is it's the relentless negative thoughts that keep us feeling bad, not the big problems. The big problems come from our relentless negative thoughts. So
yeah, everyone is saying they're not offended, so it's all good.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and yeah, just pay attention today to that issue that's yours, and ask yourself, where am I feeding this thought structure every day? What am I saying to myself that's keeping this alive in me? Nothing's being done to us. We're not a victim of the world we see. We are the creators of it. So good luck in investigating that creative process today. Thank you all for joining us. I love these sessions, and I'm so happy that you're with us. So we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you very much. I just want to say a short thing also, that we are preparing for a retreat, and if anyone is joining us, we are welcoming you here. If anyone is still thinking about it, we still have a few spaces left. So there is a link on channelingjesus.com on the top menu there. So if anyone wants to read more about it, that's where you get it. So thank you. See you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.